Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves, and no one irritates or exposes a narcissist like an empath." Please stay with me, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because what I'm about to share will fundamentally shift how you understand these relationships. This isn't just psychology. This is Jung's shadow work at its most profound level. And once you see it, you can't unseen it. What the narcissist sees first. Here's what most people get wrong about why narcissists are drawn to empaths. They think it's about exploitation, about finding an easy target. But Jung understood something far deeper, something almost poetic in its tragedy. The narcissist doesn't fall for the empath. They fall for the reflection of who they wish they were. Think about this carefully. When a narcissist first encounters an empath, what do they see? They see someone capable of genuine connection, someone who feels deeply without shame, someone whose emotional authenticity is effortless, natural, and unforced. Everything the narcissist has buried beneath layers of defense mechanisms and persona. Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear for the world. But the narcissist's persona isn't just a mask. It's a fortress. It's their entire identity, carefully constructed to hide the wound they refuse to acknowledge. And then they meet an empath. And suddenly they're staring at everything they've spent their life pretending they don't need. The empath becomes what Jung termed a living projection screen. The narcissist projects onto them all the qualities they've disowned in themselves: vulnerability, compassion, emotional honesty, the capacity for genuine love. And for a brief, intoxicating moment, being near the empath lets them bask in the illusion that they possess these qualities too. But here's the twist that changes everything. This isn't love. Jung would call this what it really is: a desperate attempt to merge with their own rejected self. They're not falling in love with the empath. They're falling in love with the parts of themselves they've exiled to what Jung called the shadow. The empath's emotional X-ray vision. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable for the narcissist. Because empaths don't just reflect, they perceive. And this is what terrifies the narcissist more than anything else. Empaths don't confront. They sense. They notice tone changes, small lies, and emotional shifts. They pick up on the things that don't align. Jung would say empaths have what he called intuitive perception into the unconscious. They see past the persona into the shadow beneath. Let me break down what this actually looks like in practice. When a narcissist tells a story that doesn't quite add up, the empath might not call them out directly, but they feel the inconsistency. When the narcissist performs generosity for an audience but withdraws affection in private, the empath registers the split. When the narcissist's words say, "I care," but their energy screams, "I'm using you," the empath's nervous system knows the truth before their mind catches up. This is what Jung meant when he talked about the collective unconscious, that deeper level of awareness that operates beneath conscious thought. Empaths are naturally attuned to this realm. They're reading the emotional subtext, the energetic signature, the unconscious motivation behind every action. And this threatens the narcissist's fragile self-image more than any confrontation ever could. Because here's what the narcissist has built their entire life around: control of the narrative. They need everyone to see them as they present themselves: successful, charismatic, misunderstood, victimized, superior. Whatever version of the story serves them. Their survival depends on other people accepting the persona at face value. But the empath can't. They're biologically, psychologically, and spiritually wired to sense what's beneath the surface. Jung called this the capacity to perceive the shadow. And for a narcissist whose entire identity is built on denying their shadow exists, being seen by an empath is like standing naked under a spotlight they can't turn off. The empath doesn't even have to say anything. The narcissist can feel themselves being truly seen, perhaps for the first time in their life, and instead of relief, they feel existential terror, mirror collapse. This brings us to what I call the mirror collapse. And this is where everything falls apart. When the empath stops validating the narcissist, the illusion breaks. And Jung understood this dynamic better than anyone. He said, The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But here's the problem. The narcissist doesn't want transformation. They want confirmation. In the beginning, the empath naturally reflects the narcissist's idealized self-image. The empath sees potential, believes in the good they sense underneath, and offers compassion for the wounded child they intuitively perceive. The narcissist mistakes this for validation of their false self. They think, finally, someone sees how special I am. But empaths are truth seekers. Jung would say they're engaged in what he called the individuation process, the journey toward psychological wholeness and authentic selfhood. They can't maintain a false reflection indefinitely. Eventually, their nature demands congruence between what they see and what they acknowledge. So the empath begins to withdraw their validation, not out of cruelty, but out of integrity. They stop laughing at jokes that aren't funny. They stop excusing behavior that harms them. They stop pretending the emperor is wearing clothes. They become what Jung called an honest mirror. And when that happens, the narcissist feels unseen, which terrifies them. But what they're really feeling is the opposite. They're being seen too clearly. The empath is no longer reflecting the persona. They're reflecting the shadow, and the narcissist can't tolerate what they see. Jung said, "The shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality." The narcissist has built their ego personality around the denial of their shadow. So when the empath's mirror shows them their own darkness, the manipulation, the cruelty, the emptiness, they have two choices: face themselves or destroy the mirror. And we know which one they chose. They rage, they devalue, they discard. Because it's easier to call the mirror defective than to acknowledge what it's showing them. Why Jung considered mirrors important. This brings us to the heart of Jung's teaching, the lesson that changes everything once you truly understand it. Jung believed mirrors force us to face the shadow. And this is not optional if we want to become whole human beings. He wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." The shadow, in Jung's framework, contains everything we've rejected about ourselves, the qualities we've deemed unacceptable, the emotions we've learned to suppress, the truths about ourselves we can't bear to acknowledge. And the only way to integrate the shadow is to see it clearly. This is why Jung considered honest mirrors essential to psychological growth. We need people in our lives who reflect us accurately, not cruelly, but truthfully. People who show us our unconscious patterns, our blind spots, our contradictions, because we can't work on what we can't see. The empath, by their very nature, serves as this kind of mirror. They don't judge the shadow, they perceive it. They offer what Jung called compassionate witnessing of the whole person, light and dark. And for someone doing their own shadow work, this kind of mirroring is invaluable. It accelerates growth. It fosters healing. But the narcissist refuses. They've made a different choice, usually in childhood when the wound first formed. Somewhere along the way, they decided their authentic self was too vulnerable, too flawed, too unlovable to survive in the world. So they killed that self and constructed the false self in its place. And they've been defending that construction ever since. Jung said this about people who refuse shadow work. Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. The narcissist's shadow isn't just unexamined, it's aggressively denied. And the more they deny it, the more it controls them from the unconscious. The empath can't unseen what they see. Once they've perceived the split between the narcissist's persona and shadow, once they've witnessed the manipulation and the emptiness beneath the charm, they can't unknow it. This is the burden of perceptive awareness. This is what Jung meant when he said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." The empath's pain comes from seeing clearly. The narcissist's pain comes from refusing to see at all. The misunderstood lesson. So here's Jung's most misunderstood lesson about empaths and narcissists. This isn't a story about good versus evil. It's a story about two different responses to the fundamental human challenge, the call to know ourselves completely. The empath accepts the challenge. They look in the mirror, even when it hurts. They integrate their shadow. They pursue what Jung called individuation, the lifelong process of becoming who they truly are. The narcissist rejects the challenge. They shatter every mirror that shows them anything other than the persona. They project their shadow onto others. They remain, in Jung's words, possessed by their unconscious, while believing they're the most self-aware person in the room. And this is why the empath will always be the narcissist's biggest mirror and their greatest threat. Not because empaths are trying to expose them, but because empaths simply see. And sometimes, being truly seen by another person is the most terrifying experience a false self can face. If you're an empath who's been in a relationship with a narcissist, understand this. You weren't broken for seeing what you saw. You weren't crazy for sensing what you sensed. You were doing what Jung believed was the highest human calling, perceiving reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. And that, according to Carl Jung, is the beginning of all wisdom. Subscribe for more.